It just means more, part 2. College Game Day podcast rolls on with a look at the rest of the SEC. Earlier, we looked at the teams that we thought were most likely to be contenders, not necessarily an exhaustive list, because we haven't even played a game yet. Rece Davis, Pete Thamel, and Dan Wetzel with you. So we covered half of the league, the obvious contenders you would think in our contenders edition of the SEC. So let's dive right into the rest of the conference here. Dan, if you had to select a team that we have not talked about yet, we talked about Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, LSU, Tennessee, the likely contenders. If you had to add another one to the list that we haven't covered, who would it be?
Yeah, so a team that I think could get into that contention if a lot of things go right is Missouri. I think, look, Austin Simmons is going to be their quarterback. Austin Simmons, I think, is a good player. He was the starting quarterback last year at Ole Miss to start the year. He got injured, and the world learned about Trinidad Chambliss. But he beat Trinidad Chambliss out in an Ole Miss football camp. Like, this is who Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. were going with, was Austin Simmons. So we haven't seen a ton of him. He only played a couple games. But my guess is he's really a very good player, and he's going to give an upgrade for Missouri, a really good quarterback to build around. Now, do they get Ahmad Hardy back? He's been out after an off-field deal in the offseason, and, you know, if he's maybe slated to play at some point this season, the defense has got to replace a lot of guys. The schedule is not a lot of fun. You know, you got Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Texas, Georgia, and Oklahoma all on it. Big starting game at Kansas, huge game, will maybe set the tone for everything. Very exciting Friday night game. But there's a lot of pieces there. Missouri's become a good program, and if I'm going to pick a team from outside that top 8 who are going to jump in and contend and make some noise, I'll go with Mizzou. I got a new stadium too. Stadium's all built, so that's kind of cool.
Drink's going to love that part of it when he listens to the podcast on his walk. Pete, who would you take?
I'm going to take Florida. I really like the fact that Florida has FAU and Campbell to find their sea legs under John Sumrall with, and we don't know yet if it'll be Aaron Fowler or Tramel Jones. And don't be surprised if you look at Sumrall's history at Tulane if they both play a little bit those first 2 games until somebody really separates themselves. Florida has one of the best collection of wide receivers anywhere in the country. Dallas Wilson, Eric Singleton, Vernell Brown, Wake transfer Micah Mays has made a lot of noise. And Jaden Woods, the edge rusher, is my sleeper for SEC Defensive Player of the Year in a league filled with defensive talent and great edges. Woods is a freak. He's different, strong contender to lead the SEC in sacks. And Sumrall himself has proven to do nothing but win as a head coach. And there's a mojo around the program right now where it wouldn't be surprising to anyone if they continued to win. At Auburn, week 3, fascinating game before Ole Miss comes in, which we mentioned in the last pod. It will be very interesting to see if John Sumrall can get Florida to feeling like Florida again.
Well, that game's fascinating because, look, now Auburn probably stumbled into a really good hire, but they sort of mishandled the opportunity to hire Sumrall, and now Sumrall has some ties there to be really fascinating. Also interesting for the Gators. They've started this. What do you guys think about this? One of their mega boosters has started a deal where he's pledged for every victory. Now, he's not asking you to match. He's just asking the fans, get involved. You want to win? Everybody chips in.
So if you win, you got to donate?
Yeah, well, you don't have to. They're asking you to pledge. Sort of like a walk-a-thon. This is like a win-a-thon. You know, you just don't make the Michael Scott mistake.
Days, man.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, yeah.
I don't know how that'll go.
We know where Dan sits on donating, Rece, so it's a bad topic on the podcast.
Donate to your 401k. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan feels like donating is like paying 2 electric bills. So
look, it's hard to argue with it, Pete. So you guys took Missouri, you took Florida. I think those are very good choices. I'm going to take a team that went 1-7 in the SEC last year. And I think this team could fight its way into fringe playoff contention, and that's South Carolina. It's a huge jump I get it. But if you're going to start, you might as well have difference makers at the three most important positions. They've got Lenora Sellers, who is going to benefit immensely, in my judgment, from the change in offensive coordinator from Mike Shula to Kendall Briles. Kendall Briles, as used running quarterbacks, as used guys can pass. Now he's got one that can do both. I think they'll be infinitely more productive on offense. They have Nick Harbor, who's probably the fastest guy in the SEC, if not the fastest guy in college football, and he also showed a much better skill set and nuance at the wide receiver position a year ago. I think he will continue to grow. And then pass rusher Dylan Stewart is going to be a very high draft pick for them. Add into the fact that among the overhaul on the offensive line, which they desperately needed, they've got 8 new offensive linemen. They got an offensive tackle from NC State and Jacarius Peak, who consensus top 3 or 4 player in the portal, depending on who was ranking them, right up there with Seton, who went to LSU, as among the most coveted offensive linemen in the draft. They really are in the portal sweepstakes. I think South Carolina, with the change of coordinator, the difference makers, they've got a chance to be very effective. They got a late September game at Alabama. They played Alabama tough the last 2 years, come up short in both of those. They have to go to Florida. They've got Kentucky sandwiched in the middle. A road game at Oklahoma, home game against Georgia. They got A&M at home as well. So I think South Carolina's got a chance here. Maybe not to win the league, but to get right on the cusp of that top 20, top 15, which would at least put them within shouting distance of playoff conversation. Now, a lot has to go right. That's for sure. But if I'm gonna pick a sleeper like that, give me a sleeper with 3 guys at the 3 premium positions who can change a game like that. And they've got 3 guys that can do it. So I would take South Carolina. And also a very important year, I would say, probably for Shane Beamer, too, coming off that disappointing year last year.
$38 million to fire him.
Well, if they do what I'm predicting them to do, they won't have to. They'll just
that's a lot of money for a place that historically has stunk, right?
Yeah.
And there's been blips, but it's basically been a century of really bad football. So, yeah, and Dan made a great point. Like $38 million is like the cost of a pretty good roster in that.
Pretty good roster. To me, is Nick Harbor the most exciting? You get Nick Harbor in the open field. The most, they used to say like the triple play is the most exciting thing in sports. Like, man, was sports boring back then, by the way. But Nick Harbor in the open field is more exciting than any triple play that's ever been made. Like a guy that big just should not be able to run that fast. He's just awesome.
Yeah. Well, and that Nick offense too, right? Like that's 4-vert city, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, absolutely.
Shane Beamer told a story at Media Days where Kendall Briles met Nick Harbor in the weight room on his visit and was like, wait a minute, that's Nick Harbor. Wow.
That's the guy with the 10-1-1 in the 100.
Yeah,
okay,
that guy who looks like DK Metcalf.
Yeah, you get pinned back on your own 1-yard line. It could be the most exciting 10.11 seconds in sports for him to go one into the other.
Absolutely. They were like, this is like when this would be like an Al Davis kind of, like he would look at like Usain Bolt, right? And be like, we gotta get him in some football pads. Like, oh, this is it. Right? This is what you got. Here we go.
So there are other teams that could be good here. There are a lot of coaching changes in the SEC right now. If you were going to pick from among the first-year coaches, and we mentioned one of them already, John Sumrall at Florida, Dan, if you were going to pick a first-year coach to be first-year SEC Coach of the Year, who would you go with?
So, do we count Pete Golding in that? Does Pete Golding count?
Yeah, I think Pete Golding should count. I do.
I think he should count. That would be my guess, is the guy who could be the SEC Coach of the Year, right? So, defensive coordinator gets promoted when Lane bails on the Rebels and wins 2 playoff games under enormous distraction. an enormous difficulty trying to put that thing together. I am fascinated. I mentioned this a little bit. Is Pete Golding a great coach? What is he? He's certainly entertaining. He's interesting. He's doesn't have a whole lot of filter. He's kind of perfect for Ole Miss. I think he'd just be great there. But we've seen the signs of it. He certainly will have the roster, and if he delivers and maintains this program and the talent they have, then I think he would be my choice with the highest upside, at least. Some of these other guys might, like, look at Ryan Silverfield's taken over a tough situation in Arkansas. He gets 5-6 wins. That's a great job. So, but is he going to be coach of the year if he gets the Hogs to 6 wins? Probably not. I would take Pete Golding in his first full year at the Rebels, and I think it's going to be a huge thing just for college football overall, because is Ole Miss set up to continue what has been built and they can maintain themselves as a national program, or is there going to be a fallback that sometimes happens when a great coach leaves? And we've seen this. So all eyes on Pete Golding.
I'm going to go off the radar a little bit and take Will Stein of Kentucky. Now, we know from SEC Media Days, Will Stein definitely thinks Will Stein could be considered for the SEC Coach of the Year, because he thought the belief in Kentucky was him. Now, this is actually an interesting philosophical question. A lot of people rip Will Stein. Some people complimented for it, but it's like 6 weeks after SEC Media Days or whatever, so maybe a month after SEC Media Days. We're still talking about Will Stein. And it is Media Day, right? He didn't say anything like insane, or he didn't say the world was flat. Like, he made an observation, like, it rooted in self-belief. So I give him
he didn't
credit.
say Ohio State and Michigan sucks in front of his whole basketball crowd or anything crazy.
Right. Yes. Yeah. He didn't ask anybody to Google him. Like, I don't know. You have to have a little bit of, like, self-belief.
I can't remember where I heard that. I heard someone else make this point, so I don't want to pretend that, and I apologize if it was one of the On3 podcasts or maybe the Athletics with Stu and Bruce and Ralph and all those guys. But someone compared it and said, everybody's trying to be Cignetti right now. And you get attention by making these bold statements. And it's like the sons of Cignetti are talking. And I found that to be kind of interesting, because there was a lot of bold talk at SEC Media Days. And a lot of new coaches are coming in really, really projecting incredible confidence that maybe you didn't see a few years back when you took over these programs that had a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. We got a long way to go. We're going to try to keep improving one day at a time, win the practice, all that stuff. Now it's like,
stacking days.
Yeah, stacking
days. Work on our
depth. Brick by brick,
no
right? Brick by brick, and then you're just re-bricking forever. A lot of these programs have been re-bricking forever. But then Cignetti kind of changed that dynamic where now everyone's just like, yeah, we're going to win. We got it. So, I don't know whether that was Cignetti or not, but I thought that was a good point.
Oh, I think it's a really interesting point. And
I wish I could.
I remember Cignetti's first Big Ten Media Days. He had kind of said all this bold stuff, and I was standing with Scott Dolson, the Indiana athletic director. He recalls this with a chuckle, and I looked at him. I was like, "Look, man, guy's a good coach. This is either going to go really well or really bad." And he's 27-2. So good for Kurt. He's been both interesting and provocative, and also a relentless stone cold winner. Will Stein, I don't think will go 27-2 in his first 2 years, but I like the fact of the philosophy on how they built this roster through the portal. They went heavy and expensive on veteran offensive line. Tegra Shabola, multi-year starter at Ohio State, Lance Hurd, significant SEC experience. And that is where their money was. And then they took some risk reward at receiver and running back. They took Nick Anderson and CJ Baxter, productive guys in the SEC who've had health issues. So if they can stay healthy, both those guys will be excellent. So there's a little boomer bust there. I am on the Kenny Minchey bandwagon. Spent some time around him at Manning Academy and at Media Days. That is a guy who has an aura and a magnetism to him that can really pop, and he can throw it. boy, Gino Guidugli should get a head coaching job just for all the quarterbacks that he's run through Notre Dame and helped develop. Steve Angeli's another guy at Syracuse who's obviously playing really well. They've had some talented guys go through there. Remember, Minchie almost won that job for Notre Dame last year. So,
Pete, I was just talking to CJ Carr about that when I was up there for an official visit about that room in the spring. And 3 Power 4 starters in the room, and Minchie did push CJ immensely. And we see how good Carr is. People are talking about him, being top 5 type pick in the draft, assuming that he takes the next step. And Minchie almost went to Nebraska, went here. I think Kentucky's really interesting because of all of those veterans that you mentioned. The fact that they get Alabama week 2 after warming up against Youngstown State is an opportunity for them to get a ton of attention. And we've talked about Alabama flying under the radar, and that's true. That will only last until their first big win or their first big loss. And if they go to Lexington and fall to Will Stein, Kenny Minchie and company, then Will Stein's got an inside track on this first year SEC Coach of the Year. If I had to cast my vote, I'd vote Sumrall. Stein would be right there. But if you believe in the whole Cignetti bringing guys with him, what I like about what Matt Campbell's doing at Penn State, that they could be a little bit better in the first year than you think, then maybe you also look at Alex Golish at Auburn and think the same thing with bringing in Byron Brown, who, putting up crazy numbers over the last couple of years, not in total obscurity, but doing it at South Florida. And now he's performed pretty well in his opportunities against the highest level competition. I mean, you're talking about a guy that last year threw for more than 3,100 yards, ran for more than 1,000 yards, 42 touchdowns. Only Fernando Mendoza had more touchdowns, and Fernando had 4 more games in which to do it on his way to winning the Heisman, winning the national championship. And Brown accounted for more touchdowns by himself last year than Auburn had as a team. Auburn has been abysmal on offense. That will change. So, I think, even though with the loss of Cam Coleman and, other guys that transferred out of there after the coaching change, some of the continuity I think is going to help Auburn, and at least starts at the quarterback position, and at least gives Golish a chance to be considered on that group, because I kind of think a lot of times you win Coach of the Year, not necessarily by winning the championship, although you can. It's who exceeded expectations and who had the most notable high moments among those coaches for whom not a lot was expected. And I think Golish would probably fall into that category. Would that be fair?
Yeah, this is Dan, where we remind the listeners that Rece's wife went to Auburn, and so he takes any chance to cherry pick a positive Auburn take to help him out at home.
That's because you stole Will Stein from me, so we had to get another team mentioned in here. Right?
It's good to get them all in there. Good to get them all in there. It's just been. We may have mentioned this, Pete, and you and I might have mentioned this a couple months ago on the pod, I think, but the run at Auburn, they have not had a 10-win season since 2017. I should have done that as trivia. Maybe, when was the last time they had a 10-win season? 10-4. Gus Bus lost the Peach Bowl. 5-7, 5-7, 6-7 under Hugh Freeze. Golf game was good, and he was honest about his scores. He posted his scores. Give Hugh credit for that. If you're a golfer, you appreciate an honest handicap. His golf was good. The wins weren't. 5-7, 6-7 under Harsin, and then the end of the Malzahn was 6, and he had 9-8. But 2017 since they won 10 games. It's been a moment on the Plains, and I think everyone would like to see that change, a little life down there.
I'm gonna hit you with this. They've had 5 straight losing seasons, and I consider myself a connoisseur of college football history. The coaches during that run, the last time Auburn had 5 consecutive losing seasons, are 2 gentlemen of whom I have never heard. Carl.
You're from Alabama.
And I'm from Alabama. Carl M. Voiles and a man called Earl Brown. They presided over those seasons. But I will say that something good came out of it, which could bode well for Alex Golish. Because after the man called Earl Brown finished his tenure in 1950, they hired Ralph Shug Jordan, for whom
that went okay.
The name is on the stadium. Jordan.
What do you think Earl Brown's buyout was, Rece? Do you think it was as high as Harson's or Gus's or Hughes?
I don't.
I can tell you this.
I don't think it's this. What do you got, Dan?
Earl Brown went he coached 3 seasons. He won 3 games, lost 22, and had 4 ties. And I hate to pick on a guy.
More ties than wins.
Can you imagine the Feinbaum show back then? And Paul's had an illustrious and very long career. He might have been even broadcasting. I mean, the calls. 3, 22, and 4 at Auburn. Feinbaum show must have been lit. Poor Earl Brown. The man is probably a wonderful man. He died in 2003, and he's just getting dragged right now. So I apologize to Earl Brown for doing that to you, but it happened.
Fred from Lochapoka was disappointed in Earl's performance calling into the Feinbaum show.
Earl Brown and pre-snap penalties, Paul.
He was
play calling.
Hey, Earl was head coach at Dartmouth for a while.
Yeah, I'm looking at
this. And head basketball coach at Harvard. We should be casting aspersions.
He played both football and basketball at Notre Dame. 1936 to 30. He was a football coach at Dartmouth, Merchant Marines, and Canisius before getting the Auburn job. Oh, can you imagine if the Auburn AD hired a coach from Canisius now? Oh, my goodness.
I don't even think they have a football team.
Who knows? Maybe.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
And he was the basketball coach at Harvard, Dartmouth, Merchant Marine, and he was the Canisius basketball and football coach at the same time and Merchant Marine.
Dan, I'm learning so much right now with the power of the internet. He was fantastic. Look, he lost.
I take it all back, Earl.
Dude, he lost the national championship game in overtime to Utah in the 1944 NCAA tournament.
Oh, that's an early tournament. Wow.
Dartmouth, NCAA runner, 19-2. Yeah.
Wow.
Big Green. What do they call him? The Big Green?
Yeah.
They were
been back a whole lot since old Earl left. I can tell you that.
They were the runner-up. What a run that thing was. Let me see who they beat in that thing. Talk about
Paul,
off the
picked
rails.
the wrong sport, Paul.
Dartmouth it was a very small tournament. They only had to win 3 games. They beat Catholic in the first round. They beat Ohio State in the second. Catholic. See? Take that, Bucks. And then they lost 42-40 in overtime to Utah. Well, that must have been an exciting game. Overtime, only 42-40.
I will tell you, Earl ran the gamut in the Iron Bowl too. He one year he lost 55-0. They rolled double nickels on him, but the next season they came into the game with 1 win all year, and they upset Alabama 14-13, probably with a ball bouncing off a tuba to someone who ran it back 112 yards for a score. Probably. I'm not really sure.
That's what got him that 3rd year when he went 0-10.
Yeah.
Paul, we hired a coach from Canisius.
You know what the producers are thinking right now?
Why
never have these guys record back-to-back podcasts again? They start getting
too many teams in these leagues. Yeah, sorry. Tuned in for SEC talk, and you got 1940s NCAA basketball references.
Blame realignment.
All right.
Okay.
Earl's incredible.
I want to know if Canisius has a football team now. I'm actually curious.
I don't know. Merchant Marine Academy too, man. This guy coached everywhere.
I think I think Merchant Marine still does play football. I'm pretty sure of that.
Canisius does not have a varsity intercollegiate football team. They dropped it after the 2002 season due to economic and competitive reasons.
Competitive reasons. Merchant Marines does play football.
Yeah, Pete, you've set me up perfectly. to get us back on task.
I can't imagine this transition.
At one time, there were those who suggested that perhaps Vanderbilt give up football. And then Diego Pavia comes. Maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but I need to transition somewhere. So give me a true or false answer here, Pete Thamel. Vandy is no longer the old Vandy, but this year they're back to sort of like upgraded old Vandy. True or false?
True, because they're spending, and credit Vandy and AD Candace Lee for realizing what was possible. Like right at the start of NIL, Vandy took a wrong turn and invested in facilities, and that did not help them early on. I believe Clark Lee had a winless year in the SEC early in his time there, and it looked like Vandy was zigging when everyone else zagged. Well, everything came together thanks to Diego, and now winning is again possible at Vanderbilt. In the Alabama upset 2 seasons ago, and then game day there last year, and being highly competitive in the SEC last year has given Vanderbilt institutionally incentive to keep going and spending. Can we sit here today and prompt you that Vandy is going to be the same caliber of the Vandy we saw last year? No. But you know what Vandy is right now that they hadn't really been much in the 25 years I've done this? They're interesting, Rece. They're actually interesting. Jared Curtis. Will he start? Yeah. Probably not named yet. He's still batting out with Blaze Berlowitz. But Jared Curtis, 5-star freshman from Nashville, is the first recruit in the history of the world to flip from Georgia to Vanderbilt as a 5-star and likely could start a quarterback. That is mind-bending that Vanderbilt could do that. And Diego Pavia has made this all possible. And look, we're all going to peek at Vanderbilt in the opening couple weeks. How do they look? How are they going? How is it going? Now, they have a good tailback in Cedric Alexander. They have some talent on defense. They will have a couple players, drafted this year. But I just credit Vanderbilt for the power. The power of possibility is there now, and it hadn't been there before.
It's amazing what the program has become. A couple and what it can become, because the whole thing with Vanderbilt's always been, it's in Nashville, right? And Nashville now is absolutely booming, as anyone knows. In Nashville, not only is there more people, more money, more traffic, but all that, but also there's more and more central part of Tennessee, more and more talent to recruit. And Curtis is an example, this massive recruit. And for him to come to Vanderbilt is a bellwether moment for them. Just unfathomable before, let alone flipping him from Georgia. There's also just the cool factor. I think it was last year there was a flight home, maybe from the Bama game. At Bama when they had Johnny Manziel and Theo Vaughn on the plane. You guys had the college game day where Nate Bargatze, the comedian, promised Jared Curtis a movie role. Was that it? If he went to Vanderbilt? We have celebrities flying on the team plane and recruiting at Vanderbilt.
Illegally.
Never before.
Because you're not supposed to talk about recruits. Yeah. It's great.
Can you offer a movie role? Is that one? Is that
probably not? If Arian Carter can't take a Southwest flight, then I don't know if you can promise movie roles.
There was an issue several years ago. We were hosting Game Day. Micah Parsons was on a recruiting trip at Ohio State, and we didn't know that he couldn't come up and take a picture, and he did, and it was a problem of some kind. So
you guys you broke the rules. 2-game suspension for
purpose. Well, he went to Penn State. They didn't get him. So, it was okay.
They didn't. Doesn't matter.
Micah Parsons, how did he ever pan out? Was he okay?
He turned out okay.
So this is where we were, is it used to be a violation to take a picture with the ESPN crew?
Yes.
Even though you don't.
Now you can pay a dude $6 million.
Yeah, let's get a quarterback for $6 million.
Totally fine. You might have to launder the money through Learfield, but you can give him $6 million.
Micah was worth every dollar and every photo. Maybe Jared Curtis, but just the state of Vanderbilt is just it's just incredible where that program has become, that it's even relevant to that level. So
Vanderbilt was mad it didn't make the playoff last year. What will be their disappointment at the end of this season? That they weren't in playoff contention, that they didn't go to a high enough bowl, or that they didn't make a bowl?
I can see him making a bowl. I just think this is maybe a transitional year. What do they get out of Curtis? How good is this kid? Presuming he does become the starter. So I don't know.
Schedule's pretty friendly, relatively friendly. Some of the tougher games at home. SEC-wise, they go there at Mississippi State, who we'll talk about in a minute, should be improved. You have to go to Florida. They get Alabama at home, get Ole Miss at home, go to Auburn early.
I think that NC State game is a really pivotal game for the program.
Huge game for them.
Because you can go 3-0. We're going to give them Austin Peay in Delaware. No offense to the, to the fans of those. And then if you beat NC State and go 3-0, you're now an argument that you're again a top 25 team. Then you go to Auburn, and who knows what we're going to get from Auburn, right? You got Byron Brown and a very good defense, and I think that's an underrated part of Auburn if we talk about them more. They bring back a bunch of real dudes from an excellent defense, and they have DJ Durkin back as the DC. Any case for Auburn, to me, starts there as much as it does on offense. But, again, the power, if you're 3-0, the power possibility is again there at Vanderbilt in roaring strong. It's a tough stretch at Auburn, at Georgia. Then you go to Ole Miss and Arkansas at home, and then you go at Kentucky, at Mississippi State. I don't see this as a playoff Vanderbilt team, but I do see it as a team that could win 8 games. I don't think that's outlandish, especially if you start 3-0, that you can fight through and get there. And then if Jared Curtis flashes, you become more of a destination. Diego made it possible to get to this new plane, and Jared Curtis can keep Vanderbilt rising.
Dan, I gave you this task and caught you a little bit off guard. You still handled it beautifully with your razor-sharp wit when we talked about the Big Ten. Say something nice and hopeful to inspire hope in either Fayetteville or Starkville for Arkansas and Mississippi State.
I will give you some for Arkansas. I could give both, but Arkansas, Ryan Silverfield to me is an excellent coach. 50-25 at Memphis, won big in the Mid-South, great recruiting ties in that area. And I love the way Memphis played the last few years. And so that would be my guess that it's been a lot of dysfunction at Arkansas. The school's got so much going for it. And I think it frustrates Arkansas fans so much because there's a ton of money. Northwest Arkansas is growing so much. It's a great place to go to school. They have tradition. They just sometimes can't get it all together. But I do have a lot of faith in Ryan Silverfield. So I think that is why you should be excited about the season. Are you going to win 8, 9, 10 games? Probably not. But there's going to be some real competence and a real vision forward for a guy who's going to recruit really well in the Mid-South and I think do well in other areas and get that program back to competent and build it to the right way. So that would be my bit. It's a new coach, and I know they keep getting new coaches, but this one's I have a lot of faith in.
All right, I'm gonna Mississippi State. Jeff Lebby, 1-15 in SEC play. They led Tennessee by a touchdown with 2 minutes, lost in overtime. Lost to Florida by 2, had a tough call go against them. Blew a 17-point lead to Texas. Keep finding ways to lose. But there is one major bright spot. He'll be taking snaps for them, for old Bully and more cowbell.
So I want Adrian to have the Super Mario coin ready for every time we talk about Kamario Taylor. Like they play the NBA arenas, the Mario coin. Kamario Taylor, when he walks in a room, is a specimen. He is an absolute specimen. And Jeff Lebby is not cautiously optimistic about Kamario Taylor and what he can become as Mississippi State's quarterback. He is violently optimistic about it. He really thinks, and they really think, since they recruited him and got him on campus, that he can be the best player in the program since Dak Prescott at that position there. Kamario Taylor on the hoof is 6'4", 230 pounds. He's chiseled. He has hands the size of phone books, and he can spin it, man. And, he played in spot duty last year until the end of the season. And look, like he's got a little bit of a ways to go. Obviously, in the bowl game against Wake, he was only 13 to 22 for 241 yards. Last year, he threw 5 touchdown passes, had 629 passing yards. He also had 458 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns. He is as true and dynamic as a dual threat. And look, Jeff Lebby can call plays. They know how to spread the field and move the ball in different ways. They've significantly upgraded on both lines. And I think Kamario Taylor could be a rocket ship in the SEC this year and blow a lot of people's minds with the depth of his talent and potential.
We put together.
You don't see a lot of that was pretty good, Pete, but you don't see a lot of phone books anymore. The old phone book.
That actually.
What should his hands be the size of?
I don't know, but it ain't a phone. If anybody under how old you got to be to even know what that is anymore? You're going to be blown away when your kids start figuring out stuff. You're like, oh, they don't even know what that is. A phone book. You haven't seen a phone book in a while.
He's probably the forgotten quarterback who'll pop. Dan, we brainstormed some questions, some broad-based, fun type, prop bet type questions for the SEC season. So let's wrap up this second half with some of these and draft a few games. So Kamario Taylor, that's who I was going to choose for a forgotten quarterback who'll pop. Anybody else got another candidate? Look, everybody knows Art, Gunnar Stockton, the other star quarterbacks in the league, Byron Brown, coming back for Auburn from South Florida. Number of guys like that. Obviously, Trinidad Chambliss. Kamario Taylor's got to be the guy, right? The forgotten quarterback that'll pop. Kenny Minchie, anybody else? Got anybody else we haven't thought of?
No, I mean, Austin Simmons, I had a veteran coach who's coached at the highest level tell me that when he saw Austin Simmons throw a ball, it was one of the purely as a throw. It was one of the 5 prettiest throws he's ever seen. Like just pure snap, how the ball leaves the hand. He compared it to like Andrew Luck. Now, I'm not saying he's as good as Andrew Luck, but I'm just saying there is a purity to the way Austin Simmons can wing it that is unbelievable. And it is a thing of beauty to watch. If you flip on Missouri this year, boy, does that thing leave pretty.
Okay, quick hijack. Guy you like to, I'm not talking about play quarterback. The guy that you liked watching throw the ball more than anybody you've ever seen. Dan, who is it?
Man, I always thought Joe Flacco could throw a ball. I don't know if he could throw it the farthest. You know what? I'll actually go with Stafford. I'll go with Matthew Stafford.
That's a good one.
I remember
That's
couple.
Fun.
Matthew Stafford's arm talent is ridiculous. So I'll go with Matthew Stafford. But Joe Flacco could really throw a football. But Stafford could at times makes just incredible passes, particularly deep.
I'm going to cheat because I thought of the question right now. I've got 2. One that I loved watching him throw just because of the sheer violent force of it, John Elway. And the other one, maybe the prettiest ball I've ever seen is Jeff George. Jeff George threw as pretty a ball as you'll ever see. As talented a thrower of the football as there. He and Aaron Rodgers, as talented a thrower of the football, and no one did it and ripped it with the same velocity and power as Elway to me.
I'll take Mike Vick. The ball left his hand in a way that is just completely different than anyone I've seen, college, NFL. So I'll take Michael Vick in that.
Who gets fired by Halloween, Dan? We look at this in the SEC.
We've been too positive. We've been too positive.
Let's take a trip to negative town. Who at least, if not fired, the fans are calling him and demanding that Feinbaum help get him fired.
Well, if it's Feinbaum, that doesn't bode well for if things aren't going well at over in Tuscaloosa. Don't lose too much early. I mean, I think your hottest seat is either Shane Beamer, who we mentioned, or Jeff Lebby. If they can't get something going, I don't know if that's really fair to Lebby. There's only so much you can do. But I think after last year's purge, It's certainly, there's a lot less. There's two things. There's not a lot of hot seats, and there's a really a lot of good quarterbacks in the SEC this year. But I guess it would really be Beamer if Beamer does not get it cranking. But as Pete noted, that's a big old buyout they got for him.
Well, I just happen to have on my computer screen right now my preseason hot seat article with all the buyouts and everything that I'm putting together and put together annually, and try to be thorough and slightly empathetic, because these are jobs and families and lives that they have to go through. So I'm going to give you a stat before I give that answer. The last 3 years, there's been the most turnover in college football of any time in history. 95 jobs have changed over in the last 3 years. And this, obviously, the pivot point for everything is 2021 when NIL started. So I took the sample size of 2017 to 19. 2020, obviously, is its own awkward thing. You can't really use it in a sample set. So, like, pre-NIL, the last 3-year period that is, supposedly comparable is 2017 to 19. 64 jobs changed over in that period. So we've gone from 64 to 95 in a decade, basically. That's a 48% jump. Shout out Syracuse stats class, since UMass is getting so much love. The only math class I took in college. And I just think, like, we're in a wildly different world right now. There used to be in these, can't fire him because of the buyout. That is off the table. All right. No matter how you look at it and what you do, that I think it's a factor in the conversation. Don't get me wrong, but it is, as an inhibitor is now gone. So, but that's a big number for Beamer there. The number isn't as big at Mississippi State. Now, the place where if things went sideways could get a little hot, and I'm not saying that's deserved, by the way, because I was there before Josh Heupel got to Tennessee, and the program was an utter dumpster fire. It was Philip Fulmer as the AD, McDonald's bags of cash. Oh my God, I'm blanking on that guy's name now. The old DC from
Jeremy Pruitt.
Thank you, Jeremy Pruitt.
Like, it's a brick by brick.
The clown prince of SEC football coaches in my lifetime is Jeremy Pruitt. And Josh Heupel took that thing from complete and utter disarray and made it respectable, made it fun, made it vibrant. But it does feel like a segment of the fan base at Tennessee has forgotten where they were and is now focused on where they're not. Now, they're a playoff team 2 years ago. I think they'll be very good again this year. I want to be very clear about that. But Heupel's number is $28 million in that sense. But I will say this. I don't think anyone's fired by Halloween, but someone's getting fired in the SEC. 9-game conference schedule. Like, there's too much at stake and too much passion. And quite frankly, when you look at that 48% jump on the carousel, there's too much invested. Like, these places have too much money in to not, to not produce. So something's going to give in the SEC, but there is no, like, sort of classic glaring hot seat like Hugh Freezer's on last year, for example, or other guys.
It's mostly because
Billy
Auburn has a new coach.
Napier, yeah.
Yes,
Napier, that's true.
But everybody got fired. So
yes, correct. Yes. So
I'm not sure we're going to have one, Pete. And here's why. Because if there are candidates for it, it would be the two you mentioned. I think Beamer is going to have a good year. So yeah. I don't think there. And then I think at Mississippi State, you kind of look and you go, wait a minute, what exactly are we going to do? Right. They just brought back their former head coach as a defensive coordinator, which suddenly seems to be some type of new trend. It happened at Virginia Tech also.
Great hire at State.
It is. Great Zach Arnett as a defensive coordinator is a great hire. And they've been abysmal on defense.
Unconventional system pairs well with their unconventional offense. You're a pain to play.
Yeah, I mean, absent something catastrophic coming in, some team just absolutely stepping into the empty elevator shaft, a number of places. I'm not sure now I'm not saying there might be a coaching change. Somebody might take another job, but in terms of like just the old fashioned firing, pay the buyout, maybe the SEC after massive turnover this past year might miss it simply because I don't know what Mississippi State would do. I mean, Levy's a good coach. It's an extraordinarily difficult job right now. And they've, as I detailed earlier, they were a few games away, from doing it. Since we are getting ready for the season right now, let's draft the 3 must-see games. Each of us take one. When somebody takes one, it's off the board. Conference game, SEC versus SEC, counting it down. What do you think? Dan, you get first pick. This is at the top. We're not counting it down from your third favorite. You get your favorite, then Pete will take the second favorite, and I'll take the third one. What's your favorite game? Had to buy one ticket, go to see one SEC game this year. Which one's it going to be?
Well, I mentioned it on the last pod, and I predicted there'd be two of them, but I would go with Red River. I think that's it's always a fun game. And I think that it's a huge ladder game for both teams, both in the standings and the trajectory of the season. And I think these are the two contenders for my two favorite contenders. Probably 5 or 6 contenders here for the SEC title. So I would go Red River, Texas, Oklahoma as the best SEC conference game of the year. I guess we already did. So wait, I mean, I would take LSU at Ole Miss. Did you say you took that off the table or no?
No, I didn't take it off the table. You could have taken it.
Okay, well then you can go to Red River.
What are you
doing?
Go
to Red River.
I took 2 earlier.
I'm switching. The pick was not in.
The pick
they
was
didn't
not
ring
in.
that little bell. Pick is not in. I want to go see the hate. I want to see the Kevlar. I want to see the drunks in the Grove. I want to see the whole thing. LSU Ole Miss. I was overthinking this. It's completely overthinking this.
18.4 million people watched Ohio State, Michigan. How close will LSU and Ole Miss get to that? Assuming that neither team has lost a game in the first week. Both of them have tricky games and openers, by the way. But assuming they both have won, yeah.
Jeff Brom could spoil a lot of this.
Yeah. So, okay. So assuming both have made it there, how close to that number?
What time's the game?
Is it primetime game?
Prime time it'll be. 15. Absolutely get close.
Wow.
It's just early in the season, but
yeah,
absolutely.
That's a massive number.
Yeah. Look, Lane Kiffin, as he will tell you if you have a conversation with him about media, is a sensation. He is a sensation. Stories about him are well read, and like people can't look away. He, if he was on social media, he'd probably see these quote clipped and text us all about it. But Lane Kiffin is he is college football's story of the year. With the way that he sputtered through that the messy departure there, and this is the comeuppance, and nothing drives viewership narratives in our interest like pure old-fashioned hatred, and that's what we're going to get.
Dan snatched your LSU Ole Miss ticket away from you at the very last second. So now
I was blew that. That was like the worst. That would have been the worst pick. That would have been taking like I don't know
Ryan
what
Leaf.
I was doing. Ryan Leaf over Manning.
Pete, where are you going?
Absolutely terrible pick.
Go to one game. Where are you going? Can't go.
I'm going to go to Georgia and Alabama. It is, through all this change, it has still been the defining matchup in the SEC, and a lot of questions for both sides, but that game is high stakes and high quality, and that will not change. So I'm going to go to Coach Saban's neighborhood and take the Bulldogs at the Tide.
Dan, I didn't anticipate you taking that one, Pete. That's the one I thought would be left on the table. Instead, Red River's left on the table. I think you got a couple of conference contenders right there. Since Dan decided to go to Oxford instead, I'll go to the State Fair, corny dog, fried Oreos, and watch two teams that could potentially contend for the national championship.
The Texas schedule is awesome this year. I mean, you got
that's good
Ohio
too, because they kind of got a layup in their first year, relatively speaking.
Yeah, they got it nice.
Yeah,
I mean, you could make the argument if you want, what Texas game would you pick? We could do this. You have three obvious contenders: Ohio State, Red River, and then add A&M at the end of the year, and that doesn't count the trip to LSU or Ole Miss visiting, like that, or the trip to Knoxville. Like, heck of a season. It is a great, exciting schedule for Texas. They may knock them out of the playoffs, but it's going to be fun.
Okay, and then to wrap this up before Pete goes and puts Tegan to bed, and then Dan prepares for move in, and I bide my time prepping for the season. Does the SEC end the championship drought or the championship game appearance drought, or neither or both, Pete? Last word.
They end the championship appearance drought, but not the championship drought, because I've already declared my champion, and that is the Indiana Hoosiers.
Dan?
I don't think they win it. I think there's three. I think between Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana coming out of the Big Ten, and maybe even USC, but any of those three could absolutely win it. And then Miami and Notre Dame can absolutely win it. So there are 5 teams that I think have better, if not as good, arguments as anybody in the SEC. So I think the drought continues, as unfathomable as that once was. I think the drought hits 4 years, and the Feinbaum ratings stay high.
I think the drought hits 4 years also, but I think the Big Ten reign of terror comes to an end in the national championship, which we'll probably do on our playoff prediction pod. We'll go to South Bend, Indiana. They've got a brand new building. They've got plenty of room in the brand new trophy case. It'll stay in the state of Indiana, just not in Bloomington, Pete. Google it. We'll do it at the Thanks for listening to the College Game Day podcast, the SEC preview version with the others receiving votes edition of the podcast. Download this wherever you prefer to get your podcast or subscribe and never miss a single episode. Good night, Tegan.